Use headphones for best experience.
We thought we were stealing from the dead. It turned out we were borrowing time from them, and the debt came due fast. It felt like I had stumbled into someone else's nightmare, only I couldn't wake up. My heart hammered as I followed Marcus through the moonless dark of Pine Grove Cemetery. His flashlight beam cut across crooked headstones and gnarled trees, a single yellow eye in the black. Every crunch of dead leaves underfoot made me flinch. I clutched the shovel in my sweaty hands, fighting the urge to run. We picked our way between the graves. A humid breeze carried the scent of damp earth and rot. Marcus moved like he'd done this before. Quick, silent, unflinching. I tried to follow his lead, but my legs shook. I tripped on a tilted gravestone and nearly fell onto a grave. Marcus whirled and the flashlight glare hit me. "Quiet, you idiot," he hissed, barely above a whisper. "You want to wake the caretaker?" I swallowed hard and nodded. We crept deeper among the tombstones in deafening silence. Marcus finally stopped at a plot of freshly turned earth. He aimed his flashlight at the headstone. Even in the dim light I could read the name, Elias Finch, with a date of death just 1 week ago, only 7 days in the ground. My stomach knotted at the thought. Marcus shoved his spare shovel into my hands. This was really happening. We were about to dig up a corpse and sell it, all for a few $1,000s. I planted my feet in the dewy grass and drove the shovel into the soft earth. The ground gave way with a wet chew, and I heaved the first shovelful of dirt aside. Marcus joined in with his own shovel, and under that starless sky we dug like men possessed. Sweat rolled down my face and the muscles in my arms burned, but fear drove us on. My mind played tricks with each scrape of metal on soil. I imagined I heard sighs from below, a coffin lid creaking, but I kept my focus. After endless minutes of stabbing and lifting earth, my shovel struck something solid with a dull clunk. "Got it," I whispered. Adrenaline surged in my veins. We scraped away the remaining dirt until the wooden lid of the coffin appeared. Working in grim synchronization, we cleared enough space to pry it open right there in the grave. Marcus pulled a crowbar from his pack and wedged it into the coffin's seam. With a groan of nails, the lid cracked open. A sickly sweet stench billowed out, so thick I gagged and turned my head. Inside the coffin lay the body of an old man in a cheap black suit, Elias Finch himself. Even by weak flashlight I could see death's touch. Sunken cheeks, waxy skin, lips shrunken away from yellowed teeth. Though he'd only been dead a week, the undertaker's chemicals and cosmetics couldn't hide the truth. My first time seeing a corpse up close sent ice through my veins. For a moment, neither of us moved. The dead man lay with eyes closed, as if dozing in his grave. It was grotesque. I realized I'd been holding my breath. I finally exhaled, stomach churning. "We have to hurry," Marcus whispered, snapping on a pair of latex gloves. Dawn wasn't far off. A faint gray light was already hinting at the horizon. He tossed me a second pair of gloves. Numbly, I pulled them on. Marcus gripped the corpse under the arms. Steeling myself, I took hold of the legs, stiff and unyielding with rigor mortis. Together, we lifted Elias Finch out of his coffin. The body was heavier than I expected, a dead weight in every sense. We laid him on a plastic sheet beside the grave and quickly wrapped him up like a grotesque package. "Let's go," Marcus said, voice urgent. We lowered the coffin lid and shoved some loose dirt back into the hole to cover our tracks. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do. Each passing minute brought a little more light to the east. We hauled the bundled corpse in a fireman's carry between us, huffing with effort. Slipping through a gap in the fence at the back of the cemetery, we headed into a tangle of woods. Marcus had parked nearby to avoid the main gate. After a few minutes of crashing through undergrowth, we stumbled out onto a dirt access lane where an old gray van sat waiting. We heaved the body into the van's cargo space. My heart was still pounding, the smell of that grave clinging to my nostrils. I peeled off my filthy gloves and climbed into the passenger seat. Marcus slammed the van doors and got behind the wheel. As we pulled away, I caught a last glimpse of tombstones through the trees, silent in the early light. We drove in silence. The reality of what we'd done settled over me, like cold lead in my stomach. My hands shook in my lap, caked with grave dirt. No amount of money felt worth this. Marcus stared straight ahead, jaw clenched as he guided the van out of town. After nearly an hour, we turned down a rutted gravel driveway flanked by oak trees. Up ahead stood a 2-story farmhouse, paint peeling and windows dark. Marcus killed the headlights and rolled to a stop. The engine cut off, leaving us in heavy silence. The front door of the farmhouse opened, and a gaunt, middle-aged man stepped onto the porch. His gray hair was thinning, and he wore wire-frame glasses. In the dawn light, his face was drawn and impatient. Dr. Harker descended the porch steps briskly and strode toward us. Without a greeting, he snapped, "Get it inside, quickly!" We opened the van and wrestled the wrapped corpse out. Harker grabbed one end of the bundle without hesitation. I took the other, and together we hurried toward the house. He led us around to a bulkhead cellar door, already left ajar. We maneuvered the body down a short flight of concrete steps. The basement air was cold and sharp with chemical odors. Under a single bare bulb, I saw a crude laboratory. Metal tables with surgical instruments and electronic devices, shelves of bottles and jars along the walls. In the center stood a gurney beside a machine that looked like a souped-up defibrillator. We laid Elias Finch's shrouded corpse on the gurney. Dr. Harker immediately pulled back the sheet to inspect the body. He tutted at a scrape on the corpse's forehead, probably from our rough handling, but otherwise seemed satisfied. Under the harsh light, the dead man looked even more ghastly, waxen skin almost translucent. Harker paid us in cash, and Marcus immediately handed me my share. I stuffed the money into my jacket pocket with trembling hands, barely even caring about it anymore. "You've held up your end," Dr. Harker said, turning away from us to wheel over a tray of equipment. "You can go." Marcus lingered, clearing his throat. "Need any help, Doc? My friend here can assist, for a bonus." His tone was ingratiating. A spike of alarm went through me. I wanted to get the hell out of that basement and never look back. But Harker glanced over his shoulder at me, eyes narrowing behind those round glasses. Harker cast me a considering look, then gave a curt nod. "Fine, stay out of the way until I need you," he said. Marcus gave me a thin smile that was probably meant to be reassuring. I felt anything but reassured. My heart thudded against my ribs as I stepped back near the foot of the stairs, pressing myself against the cool stone wall. Part of me was furious that Marcus had volunteered me, but another part was morbidly curious. Some terrible magnetism in that room kept me rooted. I had to see what Dr. Harker was about to do. Harker pulled on a pair of rubber gloves and began preparing the body. I watched as he fastened thick leather straps around Elias Finch's wrists and ankles, buckling them tight to the gurney. He even secured a strap across the chest. Marcus shifted uneasily but said nothing. "In case he wakes up disoriented," Harker remarked, noticing our looks. A hint of a smile crossed his face, then vanished. "Wakes up," the words sent a chill through me. Marcus had joked about Frankenstein on the drive out here, but now, watching the doctor work, I realized this was deadly serious. Dr. Harker moved with clinical focus, not the frenzy of a madman. He truly believed this was going to work. Harker picked up a syringe filled with an eerie green fluid and slid the needle into the corpse's neck. He slowly pressed the plunger, then repeated the injection on the other side of the throat. My mouth had gone completely dry. Next, he attached electrode pads to the corpse's temples and chest, wires trailing from them into the strange machine beside the gurney. I had unconsciously inched forward, morbid curiosity keeping me in place. Marcus hovered on the opposite side of the gurney, eyes wide. Dr. Harker glanced up. "Stay clear. Sometimes there's movement." With that understated warning, he flipped a series of switches on his machine. A high-pitched whine filled the air as it charged. My pulse pounded. In the sickly yellow light, I saw beads of sweat on the doctor's brow. Harker pressed a button, and a jolt of electricity surged through the corpse. It spasmed against the straps but fell limp again. He increased the power and tried a second time. The lights flickered as current crackled through dead flesh. Elias Finch's back arched, and a wet, gurgling moan slipped out of his slack mouth. Then the body fell still once more, a whiff of smoke curling from his singed skin. Then Elias Finch opened his eyes. The dead man's eyelids sprang wide, revealing glassy, milky white orbs. His mouth gaped in a slack grimace, and a guttural croak rattled from his throat. Dear God, I breathed. The corpse, no, creature now, began to strain against its bindings. One finger twitched, then another. In a sudden convulsion, Elias Finch's head jerked to the side, and he emitted a ghastly moan, like a man in terrible pain. The thing on the table answered with a raw, animal growl. It yanked at its restraints, limbs flailing. The gurney rattled on its wheels. This was no miraculous revival of a kindly old man. It was a nightmare in motion. Dr. Harker lunged for a syringe on the tray, likely a sedative. But before he could draw it up, there was a loud snap. One of the leather straps restraining Elias's left arm tore clean through. His withered arm shot up and grabbed the doctor by the front of his shirt with impossible speed. Harker gasped, trying to pull back, but the creature's grip was vice-like. Elias Finch, dead for a week and now somehow alive again, sat up with a lurch. Another strap popped loose across his chest. "Get back!" Harker shouted, finally sounding afraid. He struggled to free himself from the claw-like hand clutching his shirt. Marcus stumbled away with a cry, nearly tripping over a stool. With a guttural snarl, the reanimated man lunged at the doctor. His bony fingers found Harker's throat and squeezed. Harker's eyes bulged. He let out a choking gurgle, dropping the syringe as his hands flew to his neck. I was frozen in horror. The old man, if it could still be called that, held the doctor in a death grip. Harker thrashed, kicking over a tray of tools. In the dim light, I saw the creature's lips peel back in what looked like a grin as it tightened its hold. There was a gruesome crunch. Dr. Harker's struggles went limp. The creature released him, and the doctor's body crumpled to the concrete floor, neck at a grotesque angle. Marcus turned to run, but the reanimated corpse was on him in an instant. It drove him to the floor, and before a scream could escape, the dead man's teeth tore out Marcus's throat. Blood sprayed the steps as Marcus went limp. I let out a hoarse cry, stumbling back. My eyes darted over the clutter of fallen instruments. On the floor lay a large syringe filled with clear liquid, the sedative Dr. Harker had prepared. I snatched it up with trembling fingers. The thing that had been Elias Finch lifted its gore-streaked face from Marcus's body and fixed its milky eyes on me. It let out a snarl and lunged. I drove the needle into its neck and jammed the plunger down, injecting the entire dose. The creature slammed into me, then suddenly lurched back, its strength fading. With a final guttural groan, it toppled over and lay still. I stared for a moment at the carnage. Drive Harker's broken corpse, Marcus lying in a pool of blood. I was the only one left alive. With a strangled sob, I turned and fled up the stairs into the pale morning light. Outside, dawn had broken. The sky was painted in soft pink and gold, birds chirping obliviously in the trees. I sucked in a lungful of fresh air, but it did nothing to calm the panic roaring through me. I climbed into Marcus's van. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. But on the third try, the engine snarled to life. I gunned the accelerator, tearing away from that farmhouse and its terrible secrets. As I sped down the empty country road, the rising sun blazed in the rearview mirror. The world looked so normal. Dewy fields, distant telephone poles, as if it had no idea of the horror I'd just survived. A sob bubbled up in my throat, and I realized I was crying, hot tears of panic and relief. I didn't stop driving until that cursed farmhouse was miles behind me. I kept driving aimlessly, putting mile after mile between me and that place. But no matter how far I run, I can never escape the horror of that night. I was a teenage grave robber, and I'll carry the nightmare of what we unleashed with me to my grave.
If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like, comment, or share this video with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to hear more stories like this one.